Our state constitution essentially says that we do public education for two reasons: to ensure a healthy and growing economy, and to ensure that the next generation is ready to take on the reins of our democratic republic. That's why we do public education. We don't do it for all this other stuff. But yet, when some, weirdo economist from Houston shows up and says maybe we should consider making significant cuts in public education spending in Sulphur Springs, people smile and nod. And then when the next bond issue comes out to increase your taxes by 7 cents so that you can, put gold-plated, toilets in the boys' bathroom at the football field, everyone votes for it. And then we go to Irwin Cain and your state senator and your lieutenant governor and your governor and say, why are my property taxes so high? Cut my property taxes. And then the legislature does what they do every about 5 years, 10 years. They engage in reckless public policy to shift dollars to buy down property tax rates from Austin, increasing the size of the state budget, so that then school districts can keep spending money with no accountability. That's a wild, crazy cycle that at some point, some of us have to step off of that merry-go-round and say, we're not spending anymore. And we're not going to spend anymore either. We have to start having a direct tie to not only the kids in the classroom, but the outcome that the schools are providing those kids in that classroom. Until we do that, we will never get our budget under control. There was a great John Stossel, I'll leave this topic with the story. There was a great John Stossel program a couple years ago about public education. You can go to John Stossel's website and you can find it, watch it online. Amazing program. And he asked a series of public education experts and administrators, how much do you need? And their response was more. He said, $15,000 a year? $20,000 a year? Yeah, or more. No reason to it, just more. You and I want more. We always want more. But there has to be a check. There has to be questions asked. What's the value being provided? Now, I'd suggest to you that as we step out of public education and look more generally at the budget, you and I have to be willing to demand that our public servants ask that question out of every single line item of the budget. Have to ask, why are we doing this? What is the purpose? What are we actually getting out of it? And is there a better way to do it? In Texas public schools, we have 1,035 public schools in Texas. Why? Why not? Who cares? It doesn't really matter. Is it efficient to have smaller districts or big districts? Let's find out. Maybe we need 2,000 school districts. Maybe we only need 254, the number of counties we have. I don't know the answer to that question. But those are the kind of questions we have to be willing to ask. We can't say that we're always going to have these school districts because we've always had them. That's an irrational reason to spend money. And yet the Texas state budget is generally drafted year or biennium after biennium with the mindset that the way we spent money last time and the time before that was completely righteous. Well, that's insane. You and I don't look at our budgets that way. You and I, every month, take another look at our house payment, car payment, price of gas, food, groceries, family coming in town, all those kinds of things. We examine that and we start from scratch every month, every 6 months, every year. That's the way responsible people do it. But in the Texas legislature, they just presume that the last budget was okay and they're going to increase the spending by some amount, some made-up amount. We have to demand better. The spending has to be controlled. And the last big issue that I'd suggest to you is going to consume a lot of bandwidth, and rightly so. And that is what I mentioned at the first, the fact that Texas is getting a lot more congressional seats in. Probably 3 or 4 new congressional seats will be coming to Texas, primarily from California and a couple of the other states that are losing population. So Texas is going to get these new congressional districts. We're going to, of course, every 10 years, whether we want to or not, we have to redraw all of the lines. Redrawing those lines is critical nationally. 4 more congressional seats from Texas, a very conservative state. What does 4 more conservatives from Texas do in the United States House of Representatives in 2013 when that goes into effect? Pretty exciting stuff. When you have a new president in 2013, sworn in on the 20th day of January 2013, you have a large Republican Congress, House, that has been a Republican House since 2012. I'm convinced that we take control of the U.S. House this fall. Get bigger than in 2013. And then when you look at the, and then taking over the Senate in 2014, what does 4 more Republican congressmen from Texas look like? That only happens if the lines are drawn correctly by the legislature. Now, as you might imagine, the Democrats aren't too excited about giving Republicans 3 or 4 more new seats in the United States Congress. You might not have heard that, but they're a little frustrated about that opportunity, and they're going to do everything they can. Do y'all remember 7 years ago when the Texas House took up redistricting in 2003? You had the Democrats all pick up in the middle of the night and ran to Ardmore, Oklahoma, and camped out there for a week trying to thwart the redistricting process. Now, they ultimately failed. You can expect them to do that. I mean, if I had the money to blow, I would go buy up hotel spaces in Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and New Mexico, just waiting for them to come and charge them $1 billion or whatever for them. Good, you know, any of you have some cash lying around, go invest in hotel rooms in adjoining states, I guess. But so that's going to consume a lot of time, rightly so. But the thing that's overlooked for a lot of us when we think about redistricting is we overlook that there are lots of other lines redistricted. State House lines, State Senate lines, State Board of Education lines, all critical areas of government that will be redistricted. Who's going to be in charge of those maps? What are those maps going to look like? Critical questions that could consume a legislative session that will be consumed by the budget, consumed by Obamacare, consumed by voter ID, consumed by so many issues. This is going to be a wild ride of a legislative session. The only way that Irwin Cain will survive it is if all of you nice people and all of your neighbors and all of your friends are supporting him when he takes office that second Tuesday, whatever the date is, in January. And he can be there knowing y'all are taking care of his wife and kids and all that kind of stuff. It's critical that we commit to doing that. It's critical that our legislative session go right in 2011. But for the legislative session to go right in 2011, it's going to demand that you and I do what my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather Benjamin Rush did. He was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. And on August the 2nd of 1776, when all of the other signers affixed their names to the document, only John Hancock had to sign it. It was a legal document on the 4th of July. When the rest began affixing their names, I've often kind of wondered what went through their minds when they signed that last sentence, the last thing they looked at before they put their quill to the parchment, when it read, "And to this we pledge a little bit of time, my wife's family's honor, and the spare change in the carriage." That's what they signed off on, right? No. They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. That's what they signed up for. If you put money on the colonists, this little band of rebels in the 13 colonies in July and August of 1776, you were an idiot. You were brain damaged if you were betting on their success. Everything was against them. But when they signed that paper because of what Benjamin Franklin said on the 4th day of July. "Gentlemen, we must all hang together, for assuredly we shall hang separately." And so from that, they then went and signed their names to the Declaration. I'd suggest to you that we don't have warrants out on our heads yet. We don't have that same threat of violence against our families, our names, and our businesses that they had. But we should still be willing to pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our honor to the critical task of preserving the finest, greatest institutions of liberty the world has ever seen.